from Royal Communications Incorporated. A pleasant good morning and welcome to King's Newsroom for the 5 minutes of news from Liberia and the rest of our one world. Today is Wednesday, November 26, 2025. My name is Cornelius Johnson presenting Story Top Net headlines. Criminal Court A. George Roosevelt Willie disqualifies contested juror J39796 following a formal investigation by state prosecutors. The George decision comes after prosecutors argued that the juror had previously served within the last 12 months. The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning ends a 5-year strategic plan 2026 to 2030 extended stakeholders engagement in Painesville. Minister Augustine Kafwan says the 5-year strategic plan focuses on transparency, collaboration, and modernization. Deputy Communication Officer at the Group of 77, Pastor Clifford Payne, strongly rejects allegations linking him to attempting to bribe officers of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. Across the border, Tanzania has cancelled next month's Independence Day celebrations, with the funds to be instead spent on rebuilding infrastructure damage in recent election unrest, the Prime Minister has said. Ukraine's security chief says he is hoping to arrange for President Volodymyr Zelensky to visit the U.S. at the earliest suitable date as diplomatic attempts to end the war continues. The news bulletin, Voices of the Newsmakers, are all packaged in this edition of the program. We take a very short break to be right back. Let's now have the news bulletin. Criminal Court A. George Roosevelt Willie on Tuesday disqualified contested juror J39796 following a formal investigation prompted by state prosecutors. The juror's decision came after prosecutors argued that the juror had previously served within the last 12 months, a direct violation of the national jury law. During their objection, prosecutors subpoenaed several witnesses to appear, including the Assistant Minister for Human Resources at the Ministry of State, a Juror Management Database Officer, the Jury Controller, and individuals connected to mobile money transactions believed to be linked to jury payment. Initially, Judge Willie denied the prosecutor's objection, citing insufficient evidence. However, after repeated challenges, the court issued subpoenas to verify the juror's service history. However, on Thursday, November 20, Councillor Andrew Nimlin, the current head of jury management, testified that the juror in question had served during the May 2024 term, which would make him eligible to serve again. But the matter took a significant turn following day after Councillor Nimlin returned to the stand with updated information. He disclosed a communication dated May 5, 2025 from the Ministry of State requesting the replacement of a ministry employee identified as Dabret Matonia, the same individual listed as juror J39796. Councillor Nimlin further explained that an internal investigation was immediately launched, confirming that the juror had indeed served during the May 2025 term, rendering him ineligible for the current trial. The ongoing trial arises from the December 8, 2024 arson attack on the Capitol building, which destroyed part of the John Chambers. Former Speaker Councillor J. Fonati Kofai and co-defendants lawmakers Dixon Sibo, Jacob Dibi, and Abu Kamara have all pleaded not guilty. They face multiple charges, including criminal conspiracy, criminal mischief, economic sabotage, theft of property, and arson. The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning has concluded a 5-year strategic plan 2026 to 2030 extended stakeholders engagement in Painesville. Speaking at the official launch Finance Minister Augustine Gaffan outlined forward-looking vision for the Ministry of Finance five-year strategic plan. According to him, the five-year strategic plan focuses on transparency, collaboration, and modernization as central pillars of the ministry's next phase of development. Minister Gaffan stressed the ministry's commitment to an engagement process that is open, straightforward, and free of scripted arrangements. He noted that the participation from ministries, agencies, commission, and the legislature is essential to ensuring that the final strategy reflects national priorities and practical needs of government institutions. The minister has highlighted several priority areas under consideration for the forthcoming strategic framework, which, according to him, include modernization, financial systems and infrastructure, strengthening public financial management, enhancing professionalism within the ministry, and improving fiscal reporting and accounting standards. Meanwhile, Minister Gaffan Follow noted that within the five-year strategic plan, the Ministry of Finance is also contemplating constructing a new Ministry of Finance complex. He also underscored the need to revisit the 2019 Act establishing the ministry, noting that several provisions require review. Nema County District 9 Representative Tai Wongwe has submitted two bills before the lower house for onward passage into law. Speaking to reporters at his Capitol Building office Tuesday, the Nema County lawmaker said the first bill seeks to establish the Liberia Future Generation Extractive Savings Fund or long-term national savings vehicle such as Sovereign Wealth Fund to ensure that a portion of the natural resource revenues are set aside, invested, and preserved for future generations. According to him, the second bill is the National Community and Stimulus Act, which will put in place a powerful vehicle for local stimulus by routing support to small businesses, cooperatives, and community enterprises throughout Liberia. Representative Wongwe mentioned he saw a repost from Liberian Susu, which was originally posted by Prince Bowen while in the process of crafting the bill, and it reinforced why it is important to be passed into law. He added that the private sector is the engine of growth and believes investment is crucial for the nation, especially for rural communities like District 9, Nimba County. The Nema County lawmaker continued by saying both bills focus on bringing government closer to the people when the economy is enduring some challenges, as such businesses cannot be done as usual and systems must be built that outlast the present leaders. Lofa County Senator Momo Cyrus has issued a strong warning to the Liberian Senate during Tuesday's session. The Senate Committee on National Security chairperson highlighted what he described as major flaws and risks in the contract governing operations of Liberia Immigration Service. He noted that the implication poses data security threats and questionable capacity of the private company currently administering resident permit services. Senator Cyrus, who said he has raised concern about the agreement for months, urged lawmakers to remain focused as they review the far-reaching consequences of the agreement for both the government and the Liberian people. According to him, the contract is built on unrealistic projections, including a requirement for the issuance of 350,000 resident permits within 5 years. Immigration and statistical analysis estimate the actual number of potential applicants at no more than 8,000, a discrepancy the senator said could result in major revenue distortions. He noted that before the contract, immigration services generated US 5.6 million annually. On the current deal, which anticipates US 3 billion in total revenue, the government receives only 40%, while the private contractor claims 60%. He urged the structure effectively forces the government to sustain the contractor rather than support the national budget. Senator Cyrus raised additional concerns about the contractor's operational capacity. 90 days into agreement, he noted the firm occupies a small office on 10th Street with fewer than 5 employees, all of whom are foreign nationals. The deputy communication officer at a group of 77, Pastor Clifford Payne, has strongly rejected allegations linking him to attempting to bribe officers of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency for the release of his relative accused of illegal drug possession. He described the reports as misinformation, misleading, and incorrect. Speaking to reporters Tuesday at the grounds of the Temple of Justice, Pastor Payne denied allegations that he was not arrested for bribery or attempting to influence LDA officers. He emphasized that the LDA did not charge him in connection with any bribe, but rather obstruction of justice. Pastor Payne, who serves in the office of the vice president, clarified that his visit to the LDA was strictly personal and had no connection to his official role at the group of 77. According to him, he went to the premises solely as a family member after receiving troubling information alleging that certain LDA officers were soliciting unauthorized payments from individuals in custody for alleged drug trafficking, adding that his intention was simply to verify the information and seek clarity. He dismissed reports suggesting interference, calling them completely false, and urged the public and media to rely on verified information rather than unfounded speculation. Also speaking, Anthony Ibrahim Weon, who is serving as legal counsel for Pastor Clifford Payne, further clarified that his client did not bribe any LDA officer, as claimed by some media outlets. He emphasized that the LDA has not been able to establish any claims that Pastor Payne attempted to bribe, influence, or obstruct officers in any capacity, adding that the pastor did not have the authority or the intention to interfere with any official process. Former presidential candidate Dr. Clarence Moniba has raised concern over what he described as significant financial disparity between ordinary citizens and government officials in the proposed 1.2 United States dollars draft national budget for 2026. Dr. Moniba's remarks follow growing criticism from opposition political parties, including the CDC and NPC, terming the draft budget as a potential threat to the country's economic stability. Appearing on Spoon Talk, Dr. Moniba asserted that the proposed budget does not reflect the interests of ordinary Liberians, but instead favors a small group of individuals in position of power. He urged President Joseph Boakai to withdraw the current draft budget and immediately increase the minimum take-home pay for civil servants to US $500. According to Dr. Moniba, the fiscal capacity to raise civil servant salaries already exists, but he said it requires decisive presidential actions to implement such reforms. The Liberia National Union's 2023 presidential candidate also called for a reduction in the number of government ministries and agencies to no more than 50 institutions, arguing that such consolidation will save the country millions of dollars. He added that these savings could be redirected towards accelerating national development across the country. Liberia's major opposition political party, the Congress for Democratic Change, has broken ground for the construction of state-of-the-art proposed party headquarters in Kakata, Margibi County. Speaking at a groundbreaking ceremony, Margibi County Senator Nathaniel McGill emphasized the demolition of the CDC party headquarters has re-evacuated the party spirit, noting that CDC will construct headquarters in all 15 counties. The chairman of the CDC Legislative Caucus has at the same time challenged the ruling party to resign and call for election in 90 days to demonstrate political supremacy if the UP feels they have done more for the Liberian people. The Margibi County Senator pledged 5,000 United States dollars along with 5,000 bricks as his initial contributions. For his part, special aide to former President George Weah Sekou Kalasco Damaro appreciated partisans and supporters for showing up and pledged 1,000 United States dollars as his initial contribution. A physically challenged resident of Buchanan Grand Bassa County, Jared Laffa, is appealing for support and equal opportunities for persons living with disabilities. According to him, many disabled Liberians face serious barriers, especially when seeking employment, even if they are qualified. He claimed companies often refuse to consider him because of his physical condition, even though he is a high school graduate capable of serving in roles such as a data clerk. Lafa added that he once attempted to study at the Grand Bassa University but had to drop out due to the environment not being disabled or disability friendly, limiting his chances of improving his education and future prospects. He stressed that although he is physically challenged, he will continue to speak out about the difficulties faced by disabled individuals. LAFA is appealing to humanitarian organizations, community leaders, and the public to help empower people living with disabilities who continue to struggle for dignity, equal access, and economic inclusion. Kids Survival Liberia, a non-governmental organization, has begun sidewalks repainting of major streets in Buchanan City as part of activities leading to the festive season. The exercise, which kicked off on Tuesday, brought together several transform at-risk youth who are serving as volunteers to beautify the city and contribute to ongoing anti-drug awareness efforts. Speaking to reporters during the exercise, the county coordinator of Case Survivor Liberia, David Jackson, highlighted the organization's commitment to supporting underprivileged communities. According to him, the group remains engaged in multiple initiatives, including providing educational opportunities for vulnerable children and discouraging young people from engaging in harmful behaviors. Jackson noted that many of the youths participating in the painting exercise were once disadvantaged individuals. He stressed that with sufficient backing, Kate's Survival Liberia could broaden its reach and strengthen its ongoing campaign against illegal drugs, an issue he described as one of the most pressing challenges facing the county and the country at large. And a local civil society group known as Friends Forever has launched an academy tournament aimed at promoting education and community initiatives for people in Liberia. In an interview with Kings FM, the group executive director Jonathan Rawls said young Liberians continue to face disadvantages due to lack of civic education, which he described as growing embarrassment within the communities. Rawls called on local authorities and community leaders to cooperate in strengthening young people through academic activities. Also speaking, the board chair of the organization, Emmett Hazard, appreciated church leaders for their cooperation and highlighted financial constraints as major challenge in achieving the group's goals. Meanwhile, the Spelling Bee tournament, which began on Tuesday, November 20, is expected to climax December 4, 2025. Winners will receive an undisclosed cash prize, scholarships, opportunities, and other benefits. The news bulletin, we take a very short break. When we come back, we bring you the voices of the newsmakers. If you just join us, a reminder you are in tune to King's Newsroom for the 5 minutes of news from Liberia and the rest of our one world. Today is Wednesday, November 26, 2025. My name is Cornelius Johnson, presenting one of our top stories this morning. Criminal Court A. George Roosevelt Woolley Tuesday disqualifies contested juror G309796 following a formal investigation by state prosecutors. The George decision comes after prosecutors argued that the juror had previously served within the last 12 months. Let's now bring you voices of the newsmakers. Today's development now, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning has concluded a 5-year strategic plan, 2026 to 2030, extended stakeholders engagement in Pinzil City. Speaking at the official launch, Finance Minister Augustine Kafwan outlined forward-looking vision for the Ministry of Finance 5-year strategic plan. According to him, the 5-year plan focuses on transparency, collaboration, and modernization as central pillars of the ministry's next phase of development. Minister Gafwan stressed the ministry's commitment to an engagement process that is open, straightforward, and free of scripted arrangements.
5-year strategic plan, draft strategic plan for the Ministry of Finance and Development Plan. This plan is for the Ministry of Finance. This plan will outlast us. So it is not a plan for us as persons, plan for the ministry. We want to do a whole lot in 5 years where we intend to carry the ministry, but we are a ministry that serves multiple clients and stakeholders. From your vantage point, you want to see the ministry in certain direction. We don't want this to be too scripted arrangement. We don't want, that's the reason why I have a formal speech, but I won't want to talk. We want you to talk and to give whatever thoughts you have freely so that we capture. It's never too late to get a good idea to make a document better. We've been on this path for months now. Another time we are at a retreat at the Ambassador's Hotel and 3 days brainstorming, but we haven't reached. If we haven't heard from you, some of you from ministries, agencies, and commissions, from your vantage points, there are certain things we could do better. Let us know. And from the legislature, watching the Ministry of Finance, from your vantage points, there are certain things we could do better. Let us know. Development partners, there are certain things we could do better. But there are certain things we are doing, you appreciate, you want to continue. Let us know. So that at the end of the day, when we finalize, we have a plan that is robust and that actually guides our path forward. So far, there are some thoughts that we have, what I call tentatively put forth as key things we want to do. Modernizing the financial systems and infrastructure, strengthening public financial management, capacity and professionalism, improving fiscal reporting and accounting standards, advancing strategic debt management and resource mobilization, digitizing human resources while promoting diversity and inclusion, enhancing service delivery nationwide, and leveraging technology to reduce delays and digitize government workforce.
Meanwhile, Minister Gafan Follow noted that within a 5-year strategic plan, the Ministry of Finance is also contemplating constructing a new Ministry of Finance complex. He also underscored the need to revisit the 2019 Act establishing a ministry, noting that several provisions require review.
Alongside these programs, our core team has proposed certain things and certain conversations we need to have. One, they are proposing that we contemplate the construction of a new Ministry of Finance. I don't want to say complex. Build a complex will have an impression that you want to rival the ministerial complex. Some are saying that we seem to be lonely on Broad Street. Education was our partner, but they have left us. Yes, and when you check now, we are lonely. We don't have neighbors. All of them are this side, so some are saying that, besides what they're saying, the building is very old structural. We have to start to prepare for a new Ministry of Finance building. It's in the thought. We want your thought. The other thing is, the ministry has to evolve. The act of the Ministry of Finance was passed, I think, 2013, and there are a lot of issues concerning the act, and there are some debates as to what do we do. Certain departments, do we need to upgrade certain functions that are not existing ministerial level? Do we need to carve things up here and there? So review of the Ministry Act is part of the conversation, and we're waiting on that too. 2 years ago, the function of the Controller and Accountant General was recognized and made a little stronger, but we haven't reached the point of independence that was anticipated. How can we strengthen the independence of the Office of Controller and Accountant General of the Republic of Liberia?
Nimba Council District 9 Representative Tai Wangbe has submitted 2 bills before the lower house for onward passage into law. Speaking to reporters at his Capitol building office Tuesday, the Nimba County lawmaker said the first bill seeks to establish the Liberia Future Generation Extractive Savings Fund, a long-term national savings vehicle such as a sovereign wealth fund to ensure that a portion of the natural resource revenues are set aside, invested, and preserved for future generations. According to him, the second bill is the National Community and Stimulus Act, which will put in place a powerful vehicle for local stimulus by routing support to small businesses, cooperatives, and community enterprises throughout Liberia. Representative Wombe mentioned that the private sector is the engine of growth and believes investment is critical for the nation, especially for rural communities like District 9.
Today, we submitted two bills on the floor. One bill focused on the stimulus package, and that's a stimulus package for community support to local businesses and others as a grant. We are asking the House to put aside $10 million. $10 million can go across the 73 districts. And the idea behind this is simple. In my district, District 9, when I speak to the women there, the women, the market women there, they always ask me, so how can we get a piece of the government cake? The roads, they can't see the road. Sometimes the health stuff, no budget there for health. So they're asking, how can they get a piece of it? They want micro loans. In my district, we've given over $2 million in micro loans. I was just in my district, 4 times reported. We gave them $130,000. They turned out $130,000 to over $2 million Liberian dollars in less than 1 year. So we're saying, let's get some grants to these small businesses between $250 to $7,500 across the board. This will enhance businesses, and this will ensure that at least our people can benefit. That's one bill. The second bill is near and dear to my heart as well, because it's what I believe drives an economy, drives the country. It's a sovereign wealth bill, if you will. It's to put aside 10%, all of the royalties, all of the fees that concessionaire pay to government of Liberia for future generation, for the young people. Look at bomb mines. Look at all these places that we've taken. You can't look at one bank account to say the money you're saving for our future children. It's insane. And right now, I feel like it's the proper time, talking about HPX, talking about AML, let's put some money aside. 10%, just 10% for future generation. And we'll have a little bit of wiggle room there, and you can just take it out. There will be under certain conditions that will have to be met for you to take it out. So those are the two bills we put on the floor today. If you go and ask those women in my district, other rural districts, they will tell you straight that money that come to them, the bill proposes 50% of the funds to go to women-owned businesses and women-owned groups. So right there, we know women are the engine of our economy. All the market women in Moravia, all the Gubacho women there. So they're in groups. When you give them that money, they take that money, turn it around, they send the children to school. It will reduce the burden on the government of Liberia. And it helps to alleviate poverty with the fact that they can pay for their children's school fees and all of those things.
His Nimba County District 9 Representative Tai Wongwe, they're speaking. Still at the legislature, Lofa County Senator Mobo Cyrus has issued a strong warning to the Liberian Senate during Tuesday's session. The Senate Committee on National Security chairperson highlighted what he described as major flaws and risks in the contract governing operations of Liberia Immigration Service. He noted that the implications poses data security threats and the questionable capacity of the private company currently administering resident permit services. Senator Cyrus, who said he has raised concern about the agreement for months, urged lawmakers to remain focused as they review the far-reaching consequences of the arrangement for both the government and the Liberian people.
I sat this morning and listened to the preacher. She said, I took few things. She said, we are on a stage. She said that we should do things today for tomorrow. And she also said that we should keep it focused. Those were 3 things I took from the preaching this morning. But then against this background, since we are on a stage and we should keep it focused and we should do things for tomorrow, I have for many months, if not year, spoken about this contract with the Liberia Immigration Service. But it's not just because I want to speak or I just want to be noticed. I'm pushing this thing because it has so many implications on the Liberian government, its people. In my communication on October 28, 2025, I outlined that this contract was signed in 2021, October. And this contract is intended to digitize resident permit for aliens residing in Liberia. But they were interested to note that the contract says that in the period of 5 years, there should be 350,000 have to be digitized. But it's not possible because our immigration inflow annually is just 6 to 7, at most 8,000 alien per year. How possible can they digitize 350,000 cards? And the contract says if the 350,000 cards is not digitized, the contract automatically extends. This company, if nothing is done, will be here for the next 45, 50 years of the contract. Now with the tax, this contract has performed so lowly. We have issues with revenue losses when the immigration themselves was using paper documentations to do resident permit. Our revenue generation was $5-6 million US dollars a year. Now it's less than $3 million, and we have to share the $3 million 60-40. When we were doing it as immigration, we're getting $6 million plus yearly. Now we have content global, we're getting less than $3 million, and we're sharing $3 million 60-40. They are putting pressure on government to support Liberian immigration service, when in fact the Liberian service is supposed to be supporting the national budget.
His Lofa County Senator Mobo Cyrus there speaking. If you just join us, a reminder you are in tune to King's Newsroom for the 5 minutes of news from Liberia and the rest of our one world. Story topping the headlines this morning. Criminal Court aide George Roosevelt Willie Tuesday disqualifies contested juror J309796 following a formal investigation by state prosecutors. The George decision came after prosecutors argued that the juror had previously served within the last 12 months. The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning ends a 5-year strategic plan 2026 to 2030, extended stakeholders engagement in Painesville. Minister Kafan says the 5-year plan focuses on transparency, collaboration, and modernization. Deputy Communication Officer at the Group of 77, Pastor Clifford Payne, strongly rejects allegations linking him to attempting to bribe officers of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. Away from home, Tanzania has canceled next month's Independence Day celebration, with the funds to be instead spent on rebuilding infrastructure damage in the recent election unrest. The Prime Minister Mangulu has said. Ukraine's security chief says he is hoping to arrange for President Vladimir Zelensky to visit the U.S. at the earliest suitable date as diplomatic attempts to end the war continues. We take a very short break. When we come back, we'll bring you more developments on the program. Many thanks for being there and welcome back. The Deputy Communication Officer at the Group of 77, Pastor Clifford Payne, has strongly rejected allegations linking him to attempting to bribe officers of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency for the release of his relative accused of illegal drug possession. He described the reports as misinformation, misleading, and incorrect. Speaking to reporters Tuesday at the grounds of the Capitol or the Temple of Justice, Pastor Payne denied allegations that he was not arrested for bribery or attempting to influence LDA officers. He emphasized that the LDA did not charge him in connection with any bribe, but rather obstruction of justice.
Firstly, the LDE didn't charge me for bribery. I was charged for obstruction of justice. This on Monday, upon hearing the news that this suspect in question, who is a family member, and was taken to the court. I went there in my capacity as a family member, not in any capacity related or within ties to the office of the vice president, neither the office of the second lady. I went there in connection as a family member. So when I got there, he has already been taken in the custody of the court, and I was right outside. And upon hearing some unverified news that some members of the DEA were in the habit of collecting bribes and even requesting for additional payments, as a family member, I decided to confront the commander and to ask, to inquire whether the statement was true. It was true that the scaffold was full. So this family member is a suspect of drugs, and he is an extended family member. Yeah, so upon hearing the information, he's a family member. I never went there in the capacity as a member of the office of the vice president. I went there in the capacity as a family member trying to identify with a family member. When I got there, I went there to identify with him and to allow the law take its full course.
So what happened there?
Nothing happened there, absolutely nothing. I got at all. I just went there to identify with him. It was on Monday that I confronted the DEA commander upon hearing unverified information that some members of the DEA were collecting bribes on this. Knowing fully well that bribe or drugs issue is not really to upon that confronting with the unverified information, that was how the scope was. So basically, when I asked the question to know whether just to inquire, it was when the DEA commander asked the members of the DEA to arrest me in that car and took other stuff for me and try to handcuff me. So it was in the process of getting me handcuffed that I'm trying to resist, and it went on media with this information. So when they took ID card from me now, that was when they realized that I'm a member in the office of the vice president. That was how they started to roll down. But the office of the vice president has no connection to this. I never went there in the capacity connection with the office of the vice president. I went there to identify with the family member. And so basically, that was just misinformation from members of the press. Like I said earlier, the LDA has charged me with obstruction of justice. And that.
Also speaking, Attorney Abraham William, who is serving as legal counsel for Pastor Clifford Payne, further clarified that his client did not bribe any LDA officer as claimed by some media outlets. He emphasized that the LDA has not been able to establish any claims that Pastor Payne attempted to bribe, influence, or obstruct officers in any capacity, adding that the pastor did not have the authority or the intention to interfere with any official process. Here now is Attorney Abraham William.
The incident occurred on Friday, started on Friday. He was arrested on Friday. On Saturday, Pastor Pan visited with his family, allowing the DA to go on with their investigation. In fact, after church, Pastor Pan went there. So the DA officers are familiar with, so he had to allow these investigations. Let me say, sorry, Pastor Pan. He had to allow these investigations to go on. So it was on Monday now when he heard that he heard from somebody that, they are just keeping this man here, not because of drug, but they want money. In fact, they got money from somebody, one additional one. That how come he felt that this thing was not. But if it is non-believable, why would somebody be accepting bribe? That was the inquiry that we already took in there. And that was the basis of the whole thing. But again, like we said, you guys can check with the LDA. The charges are clear on the issue of obstruction. And we have not been able to determine, in fact, the LDA have not been able to establish as to whether or not he was obstructing, because he doesn't have the capacity to obstruct or whatever it is.
As a chief of...
The alleged bribery did not even come from the LDA. Okay. The bribery aspect you heard about is a commentary in the back, in the video from the poster or maybe the commentator now stating that poster allegedly he came to bribe, but he had gone raising the issue of bribe. I think that is where the information was now misunderstood as he doing the bribe. So that was not the case. So this is where we are. But he took his statement, and they took his statement yesterday, and we are waiting for further investigation. And
when do we expect him? Will they fall in the court?
But for no indications, we told the LDA yesterday that the information, like he said, it was unverified. In fact, he had to apologize for making statement and apparently appear and in a way that indicting the LDA. I think it's settled. So even if they were to carry into court, they say, oh yeah, they say no. But then that's the basis for which they carry.
So he may have
So for the crux of this whole thing is about him being a pastor, and despite him being a pastor working with the in the office of the vice president, not directly the vice president himself, but the wife who supervised or superintend the group of 77 TM. So that's where he works, a media relation officer. In fact, he had gone to work, and then he heard his call and how he left from work. You saw his kind of attire, well dressed for job, and how his ID card was later on seen by these LDA officers, and they begin to ask him, let's see his ID card, because somebody has already gotten it. He didn't go even displaying his ID card to have even intimidated them. Why in the scuffle, one of the officers got his ID card and said, he has an ID card. Let's see what the ID card is. When they saw the ID card, and when they say, oh, he's from the vice president office, then the commentator picked it up, say, oh, somebody from the vice president office has come to solicit bribe. That's exactly why. There's nothing other than. But we look forward to seeing that the information will be clear straight and what it is. The vice president does not. In fact, the vice president does not even know the individual in question. The only relationship relating to this brother is he's a family friend to him, and that's just all that's happening. Anybody will do what can.
He's Attorney Ibrahim William, there serving as legal counsel for Pastor Clifford Payne, who is the deputy communication officer at the group of 77 there, strongly rejecting allegations linking him to attempting to bribe officers of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency for the release of his relatives accused of illegal drug possession. Liberia major opposition political party, the Congress for Democratic Change, has spoken ground for the construction of state-of-the-art proposed party headquarters in Kakata, Margibi County. Speaking at a groundbreaking ceremony, Margibi County Senator Nathaniel McGill emphasized that the demolition of the CDC party headquarters has reinvigorated the party spirit, noting that CDC will construct headquarters in all 15 counties. The chairman of the CDC Legislative Caucus has at the same time challenged the ruling Unity Party to resign and call for election in 90 days to demonstrate political supremacy if the UP feels that they have done more for the Liberian people. Here now is Senator McGill.
We decided today to come to just clean our party headquarters and to begin to build the headquarters based on the mandate of our political leader, Ambassador George Weah. You know, when the enemy thought they would break down our headquarters and remove us, and the thing that we're doing now, they would have broken down the spirit of the party. But what they did not know was they re-energized citizens. They re-energized your leader. And you say, you know what? You are going about to do something that was necessary, something. By breaking down our headquarters, give us new energy to begin to build our headquarters. In 2016, CC acquired this property. Because you know the part of the thing that we're doing, crown politics, we're in campaign mode. You are the ruling party, you have an obligation managing the taxpayer money. Now that we have raised the money to $1.2 billion, you need to manage that money. But say if you want to get into campaign mode, and this is an open challenge to Unity Party. And I tell Unity Party today, if Unity Party believe that they have performed and want a media to carry this is an open challenge to Unity Party. Don't intimidate people. If you believe that you have performed, I challenge Unity Party to call an election today. Call an election today. Very easy. The Constitution provides for that. President Barker and Kum can resign to them without election in 90 days. And Kum and Barker can still participate. If they believe that they are popular, I see them putting broom on. They say they get crowd to their party because they're putting broom on. And you know that party, if you believe you're popular, you have performed. I challenge you to ask.
He's Margibi County Senator Nathaniel McGill there speaking. A physically challenged resident of Buchanan Grand Bassa County, Jerry Laffa, is appealing for support and equal opportunities for persons living with disabilities. According to him, many disabled Liberians face serious barriers, especially when seeking employment, even if they are qualified. He claimed companies often refuse to consider him because of his physical condition, even though he is a high school graduate capable of serving in roles such as a data clerk.
So I'm not just saying it because now you see I'm sure you see it. Now we go try and carry just wait and to bring go particular thing that money. So I get that money and Bama check it or carry. It's okay. You got to bring one application. You know it costs money. Just bring it. It costs money. And that money could do something good for me. They care that, you know, just really insurance that's it. That's a challenge. You know, it's a physical challenge. Why you coming to here?
So there's no space for you.
Oh, yeah, no space for you. When you have that thing, you see people for the parent, you order for the parent, you pay for it. I pay all that. I feel like when you did a lot, bro.
He is Jerry Laffa, a physically challenged resident of Buchanan Grand Bassa County. They're appealing to humanitarian organizations, community leaders, and the public to help empower people living with disabilities who continue to struggle for dignity equal access and economic inclusion. Across the border now, Tanzania has canceled next month's Independence Day celebration with the funds to be instead spent on rebuilding infrastructure damaged in recent election unrest. Prime Minister Mangulu has said his announcement comes as the opposition and others have been calling for the people to gather on Independence Day, December 9, to demonstrate about the killings that took place following last month's disputed coup. The opposition believes hundreds of people died in the crackdown. The government has yet to give a death toll and has set up a commission of inquiry. President Samir Hassan won the poll with 98% of the vote, described by the opposition as a mockery of democracy. And Ukraine's security chief says he is hoping to arrange for President Vladimir Zelensky to visit the U.S. at the earliest suitable date as diplomatic attempts to end the war continues. Rosen Romovev, the head of Ukraine's Security Council, said on Tuesday that the U.S. and Ukraine had reached a common understanding on the key terms of the agreement discussed at previous talks in Geneva. The White House has not commented on the prospect of Trump-Zelensky talks. Meanwhile, U.S. Army Secretary Dan Duskor has been meeting Russian representatives in Abu Dhabi. It is not known who is the Russian or who is in the Russian delegation. The Prime Minister said his team looks forward to organizing Zelensky's U.S. visit at the earliest suitable date in November to complete final steps and make a deal with U.S. President Donald Trump. Earlier, a U.S. official traveling with Duskor in Abu Dhabi briefed reporters that Ukraine had agreed to peace deal with minor details to be sorted out. So in this news, here once again, our top stories. Criminal Court aide George Roosevelt Willie on Tuesday disqualified contested juror J309796 following a formal investigation by state prosecutors. The George decision came after prosecutors argued that the juror had previously served within the last 12 months. The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning ends a 5-year strategic plan 2026 to 2030 extended stakeholders engagement in Pinzio City. Minister Augustine Gaffan says the 5-year strategic plan focuses on transparency, collaboration, and modernization. Deputy Communication Officer at the Group of 77, Pastor Clifford Payne, strongly rejects allegation linking him to attempting to bribe officers of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. Across the border, Tanzania has canceled next month's Independence Day celebrations with the funds to be instead spent on rebuilding infrastructure damaged in recent election unrest. Prime Minister Mangulu has said, and Ukraine's security chief says he is hoping to arrange for President Vladimir Zelensky to visit the U.S. at the earliest suitable date this month as diplomatic attempts to end the war continues. Many thanks to all of our contributors, editors, and reporters who help in making this edition of King's Newsroom our sources. For more news and information on the station, do join us at 1 p.m. or better still at 6 p.m. for a fresh edition of the program. On behalf of the entire team, my name is Cornelius Johnson. I presented. Many thanks to all of you for listening and watching. Good morning.